Alright folks, good job taking the Unit 1 test for Polynomial and Quadratic Expressions, Equations, and Functions today. I did assign homework after the test because we're going to start Unit 2 next class, and I want to make sure that we have mastered factoring quadratics. It's one of the skills that you need to apply in the next unit, and we're not going to be relearning this. So this is our opportunity to go ahead and master it. The first 8 problems on your homework handout, I'm going to go through them with you right now. Please feel free to join in as you would like. And the rest of the problems you have been assigned. So here's our first problem. Number 1 is 4x squared minus 4x minus 20. And right now in your head, I want you to answer this question. What is the first thing you should do when you're factoring quadratics? So the first thing you should always try to do that will help yourself is take out a common factor if one exists. And in fact, in this case, one does exist. There's a common 4, and I'm going to go ahead and take that out. And when I do, this becomes a much easier problem, because as we learned in Unit 1, when the coefficient to x squared is just 1, this is an easier factorization. So the question we have to ask ourselves is what two numbers multiply to get negative 30 and add to get negative 1? There is a 1 here. It's redundant to write it, so we don't, but you need to recognize that there is 1. So what two numbers multiply to get negative 30 and add to get negative 1? Hopefully you recognize that those are going to be 6 and 5, and in fact the 6 is going to take on the negative because it is the larger number. So we've just factored 4x squared minus 4x minus 20. If you were to distribute through these two linear binomials and then distribute the 4, you would come right back to this quadratic. So this expression and this expression are exactly the same. Good job. Alright, the second problem then should seem very easy. No big number in front of the x squared, just the 1. This is the nice, easy factorization. So the question we're going to ask ourselves is what two numbers multiply to get c, which is 47, and add to get b, which is 48. And hopefully you recognize that that is 47 and 1. That one was super easy. Question number 3 is not quite so easy. We would love to be able to take a common factor out of there, but there isn't one. So we're going to use one of the strategies that we learned, and we're going to multiply a and c. And we're going to get negative 18. And now, using negative 18, we're going to ask ourselves the question. And the question is, what two numbers multiply to get negative 18 and add to get positive 7? Obviously, they're going to have opposite signs. So one number is going to be positive and one number is going to be negative. Right? So 9x is going to be positive and the 2 is going to be negative. So here is how we're going to set this up. 6x squared plus 9x minus 2x, and then we've got this minus 3 on the end. And now we're going to try to factor by grouping. So we're going to take the common 3x that exists in these two terms out and get that beautiful 2x plus 3. Look at that, we're really close. And so in these two terms, we want them to look like this. We want them to be 2x plus 3. They're close, but not quite. We need to pull out a common negative. If we take a negative out of this 2x and a negative out of this 3, they'll both become positive, and now we've got this negative out in front. Don't forget that there is actually a number right here. There's a 1, and so when we go ahead and finish this factorization, we have to take into account that that 1 is there. So we're going to take a common factor of 2x plus 3 out of this term, and 2x plus 3 out of this term, and we're going to put it out in front. Now, what is left? after we take out 2x plus 3? Well, there's 3x left here. And here's the tough question, what is left when we take 2x plus 3 out of here? There is actually something left, even though it doesn't look like it, there's a negative 1. And so if we were to distribute through these two linear binomials, multiply it all out and simplify, we would come right back to this original statement. Good job. Question number 4 has some pretty big numbers. And so we're definitely going to see what we can do about making these numbers a little bit smaller and taking out a common factor. However, this is stopping us from taking anything larger than a 3. So we're going to take out that 3. The common 3 there leaves us with a 6x squared. Here we've got 11x and then minus 72. Beautiful. Because these numbers are so big, I think we're going to have to use the algorithm, and we're going to multiply 6 by negative 72, and we're going to get negative 432. Yikes. So get on your calculator and start taking a look at what numbers multiply to get negative 432. Now, keep in mind, one's going to be positive, one's going to be negative, and we want those two numbers to multiply to get negative 32 and then subtract to get positive 11. I can hear you on your calculator. Hopefully, you recognized that a negative 16x and a positive 27x will do it for us. So negative 16 times positive 27 gives us negative 432, and a negative 16 plus 27 gives us that positive 11 that we want. So now we're going to take out some common factors and try to factor this by grouping. In these first two, I'm going to take out a 2x, and that's going to leave us with 3x minus 8. And I want this to end up looking like 3x minus 8. And I can achieve that by taking out a common 9. Look at that. Good job. Did everybody see that? Okay, so now we have the 3 out in front. And from this term, we're going to take the common 3x, and from this term, we're going to pull that out in front, 3x minus 8. There's our common term. Now, what is left here is a 2x, and what is left here is a positive 9, and we just factored that big quadratic. Good job. That was question number 4. Here we go with number 5. Wow, look at that. Most of the factoring has been done for us. We have this term and we have this term. And so we're going to go ahead and pull out that common factor. A common factor doesn't just have to be a number, right? It can be an expression. In this case, we've got a linear binomial that we're pulling out. X plus 2, common to both of those terms, leaves us with negative 3x minus 8, and happily, we're done. Good job. All right, the next one is one of our biggies. You have got to be able to recognize these. They've got to pop for you. This is a difference of two squares. The reason we want it to pop is because this is a beauty for factoring, right? Super easy. We said also that we're going to see these all over the SAT. So we want to go ahead and factor this. It's a difference of two squares. Factorization is very nice and easy. There we go. X plus 5, x minus 5. If you were to distribute through these two linear binomials and multiply this all out, it would simplify to be x squared minus 25. Good job. Number 7. Let's take a look at number 7. Yep, this is a quadratic. I know because we have a squared term there. But take a look at what we've actually got. Aha. So we have two terms that we could simplify before moving on. That's okay, no problem. So we're going to leave this negative 5x squared there. Now we have a negative 15x plus a positive 140x, leaving us with a positive 125x. All right, so now the factorization here is very easy. Let's go ahead and pull out a negative 5x. That's common to both, isn't it? So I'm going to pull out a negative 5x from both. If I take a negative 5x out of this negative 5x squared, what am I left with? Well, I'm left with just an x. In fact, a positive x. Now, if I take a negative 5x out of this positive 125x, first of all, it's going to be negative, isn't it? There will be no x in the term. And 125 divided by 5 is 25. Sweet. All right, last one. 4x squared minus 20x plus 25. Here we go. All right. Let's see if we can pull out a common factor. Nope, that's not going to work. So, let's go ahead and multiply 4 and 25, and we get positive 100. Really important for you to recognize that this is positive 100. And so here's the question we have to ask ourselves. Same question every time. What two numbers multiply to get positive 100 and add to get negative 20? What two numbers multiply to get positive 100 and add to get negative 20? So hopefully right now you are writing down negative 10x, negative 10x. So instead of negative 20x, we've got two negative 10x's. Good. All right, so now we're going to try to factor this by grouping. In the first one, we're going to take out a common 2x, and that's going to leave us with 2x minus 5. And in the second piece, we're going to take out a common negative 5. That's the greatest common factor, isn't it? And in fact, it's going to leave us with a 2x minus 5. So check out what happens here. This is really cool. Because we take out this 2x minus 5 as a common factor from both terms, and it in fact leaves us with a 2x minus 5. So a really slick way of writing this is 2x minus 5 squared. All right, folks, so we've just done the first 8 problems together. If you need any more help, you need to contact me via email or come and see me either before or after class tomorrow. Otherwise, get going on the rest of your factoring homework, and I'll see you next class.